Good evening. It is Sunday, November 23rd, 2025, and it's time for Danimal Story, sponsored as always by Smiling Dan 2. He's probably in the stream. Please fan him up if you haven't already. Here's tonight's headline. Nobody knows why this snowy owl is orange. Nobody knows why this snowy owl is orange. Experts say it could be a genetic mutation, an accident, or the work of nefarious miscreants. Here's the story. Julie Maggard spent 4 long days trying to snap the perfect picture of a snowy owl in Michigan, whose unusual orange coloring has left scientists baffled. The amateur wildlife photographer was sitting in traffic, driving between scouting locations, when she finally spotted the bird, which she has nicknamed Creamsicle, perched on a utility pole. When I first seen her up there, I was like, no way! Maggart of Mount Pleasant, Michigan, told As It Happens. My adrenaline was pumping and I was shaking because I was so excited. And I'm like, I have to have all my camera settings just perfect. And I got her. Maggart says the shots are her proudest photographic achievement. She's been shooting photos of snowy owls for 6 years and has never seen one like this. Bird experts agree Creamsicle is rare and potentially even unique in its coloring. But they disagree what's behind the orange feathers. Karen Cleveland, wildlife biologist for the Michigan Department of Natural Resources, say they first started getting reports of the orange snowy owl about 2 months ago, and they have been tracking it since. Quote, among the most likely explanations are genetic mutation, accidental staining, and deliberate staining, said Cleveland, wildlife biologist with the Michigan Department of Natural Resources, which is tracking the bird. Deliberate staining is generally either explained by marking done for scientific research purposes or marking done by nefarious miscreants for reasons known only to themselves. The theory of genetic mutation was first proffered by Kevin McGraw, a biologist at Michigan State University who has written a book about bird coloration. He told local media outlet Michigan Live that Creamsicle's rusty plumage could be an expression of genes that are normally down-regulated, but were triggered by an environmental stressor, like pollution, heavy metal contamination, or pesticides. But several other bird experts have expressed skepticism about that theory. Auburn University ornithologist, that's a bird expert, Jeffrey Hill, who co-authored a book with McGraw about bird coloration, told the New York Times that if it was a genetic mutation, he would only expect to see the reddish-orange on the parts of the bird that are normally black. The pigmentation is not very symmetrical and appears on parts of a normal snowy owl that are white, he said. Ornithologist David Bird, how's that name for an ornithologist? Bird, a retired professor at Montreal's McGill University, says McGraw is an expert and his theory makes some sense, but he also has his doubts. There would have to be some sort of gene in the generic makeup of snowy owls to cause the blatant orange color, which means that we would historically have seen some snowies with a bit of orange on their plumage at this point, he said in an email. But Bird said he's never heard of another snowy owl with red or orange spots. Neither has the raptor expert that Michigan Department of Natural Resources conferred with, Cleveland said. When reached for comment by Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, McGraw said that without getting a feather for analysis, there's simply no way to be sure. Scott Windensall, a co-founder of Project Snowstorm, a volunteer snowy owl research group, said that his inbox has been flooded with all kinds of far-fetched theories about Creamsicle, including that it turned orange from eating too much shrimp, or that it intentionally preened the blood of its prey into its feathers as some kind of intimidating fashion statement. While he can't say for sure what happened to Creamsicle, he feels quite certain that the bird was not born orange. The photos make very obvious that the dye hit some feathers, but that those beneath were shielded, leaving clear, sharp white shadows that nearly match the shape of the colored feathers above. He says his group did not paint the feathers for tracking purposes, and neither have the other research organizations he's reached out to. But that doesn't necessarily mean someone vandalized the owl, he said. It seems pretty clear that the bird got sprayed, almost certainly by accident, with something that contained dye or paint, he said. Given the location, the time of year, and propensity of snowy owls to hang around airports, my Project Snowstorm colleagues and I think the most likely cause was airport de-icing fluid, some formulations of which are red and orange. Cleveland says she suspects Project Snowstorms is on the right track with its de-icing fluid theory, but we may never know for certain. That's because the only way to find out is to get a hold of the bird and test its molted feathers. And since Creamsicle seems to be healthy and well, they have no intention of bothering it. The bird will likely be heading back to Canada within a couple of weeks, she said. The expert agrees the owl is likely not in danger. Based on photos, he suspects Creamsicle is a juvenile male. And while being a weird color could, quote, put a serious crimp in its social life, when it's time to find a mate, he says the bird will likely have molted and lost all of its orange by then. Maggart, meanwhile, knows she may not find out for sure what's behind Creamsicle's unusual feathers, and there's a part of her that hopes she never will. I was just so excited to finally get a good shot, she said. I like the mystery of it. And there are pictures. Here is a picture of Creamsicle. Several, as a matter of fact. Let me get this up here. Come on. There we go. Handsome portrait of Creamsicle. We have another one in flight. That's kind of cool. And then finally, the original one that Miss Maggart took when she saw the bird perched on a light lamp in the city. There we go. All right. And that is Danimal Stories for Sunday, November 23rd, 2025. Sponsored, as always, by Smiling Dan. Fan him up. He's in the stream. And we'll be back to the best music on You Now in just a moment.